Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to the Thursday night edition of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you coming on in as we got Paul Nugent here tonight. Yeah, we're going to get into some weird, strange topics of spiritual journey and cosmic growth. I'm looking forward to this one. It's going to be a lot of fun. The best part about tonight, we have each and every one of you. We're going to start off with SJ in the gold medal position, Race Fan with a silver, Tim Mothman and his goatee, Sharon a bronze medal. Hi, Kitty Caddywhack, Simon the Likeable, Robert Lamoth, Brown Dwarf, nice to see you all. Hi, Trucker Andrew, Eternity Eternal, Roger Murray, how you doing? Roger Murray will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Mel WD40 is here, currently lubing us up for tonight's show, because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth. You don't want rigidness. You don't want it to be uncomfortable, which is why Mel WD40 lubes us up so we can go smoothly for the next 3 hours. Little Timmy James, nice to see you. As we continue on with our roll call, Mama Catherine. Mwah! I love you, Mama Catherine. I hope you're having a wonderful evening and a wonderful day today as well. Where are we here? Scrolling on down. Up next, we say hello to Lee the Bee. Nice to see you, Lee. And who's next on our list here? Well, let's go. A big conversation. It's Mr. Cowley. Welcome to the show. Oh, Mr. Cowley loves his Spaced Out Radio. Scrolling on down. Geez, you guys were having a great conversation. Hi, S. Vermette, Jessica McCreary, Operation Shutdown. Thank you for joining us all. Thomas Rock, nice to see you tonight. Hello there, JSCO. Hope you're having a good evening. Al Garay over on Twitch. Wanted to listen to Paul Nugent so much, he did 700 pull-ups in 6 minutes to work himself up and prepare for tonight's show. Digger Dog, good to see you. J Truth Seeker. Resonate is back. Resonate will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Jerry Carter, nice to see you. Hi, Scan Man and Flat Six. Good to have you both here as we continue on with our roll call. Number 26 in your program, starting at right wing from Stockholm, Sweden. Lars Jansson. There he is. We're always glad to have Lars in the house. Gory Tiger, nice to see you. Noble Patrick, good to have you back. Renee Cruz, thank you for coming on in. Want to remind everybody, the super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And of course, we do have our Spaced Out Radio swag. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag, as we have a great store where you can actually go shopping, wear our clothing out in public, and not be embarrassed by them. No, nothing embarrassing there. It all looks good. We got about a minute to go here. We're going to get the radio side going here momentarily. Quick hello to Mr. Cosmic Joe Chronicles. Scott Blight, nice to see you. And Joanne, good to have you back. Yeah, it's good night so far. Good crowd, good night. We're going to make it happen. Hold on, guys. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott, the host of this wonderful, wonderful show. Tonight, our guest is Paul Nugent. We are going to get into spiritual journeys and cosmic truth. Yeah, this guy's a wizard when it comes to this. You're going to really, really love this one. We are in roll call right now as we say hello to Nikki from Seattle. Laura Lobbs, nice to see you. I'm totally losing my voice, but that's okay. That's okay. We got about 30 seconds before we're going to go. I'm pumped up for this one. I love shows like this. I do. I know we do a lot of UFO shows, a lot of Bigfoot shows, but I really enjoy the spiritual and cosmic aspect of what we do too. It's so much more fun. Yeah. All right, we got 10 seconds. Hi, Supernower. Good to see you. And it's that time of the night, everybody, where I ask a little favor. Throw those horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a power show of information tonight. Author and researcher Paul Nugent will be up momentarily as we get into spiritual journeys and cosmic truth. Then in hour number 3, it's jam-packed. It starts off with Swamp Dweller. Robin Haynes comes in for the Cryptid Report. Then from there, it's Dave 101 night and the weird news of the week. Born in Cambridge, England in 1958, Paul Nugent was raised in the Church of England. This culminated in regular worship and charitable work for the homeless at London's famous St. Martin's in the Fields Church in Trafalgar Square, sometimes called the Parish Church of England. Having completed a business degree in 1980, he later embarked on a 4-year study of Eastern philosophy at London School of Economic Science and spent 2 periods at the New Age spiritual community of Fildorn in the north of Scotland. At the same time, he was introduced to the cosmic teachings of the Aetherius Society. Founded in London in 1955 by the Western Master of Yoga, Dr. George King, he became a member of the Aetherius Society in 1986, and in 1990, moved permanently to the Society's American headquarters in Los Angeles. In 1992, he became a personal assistant to Dr. King, remaining at his side until his passing in 1997. Paul has been a director of the Aetherius Society since 2001. He is also very active in interfaith, having served on various boards, including the Southern California Committee for a Parliament of the World's Religions and Interfaith Communities United for Justice and Peace. He also has a great book out, which can be found on Collective Books, on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Maya Mir, A Spiritual Journey into Cosmic Truth and the Dawning of a New World. We're going to learn all about that as well. Paul Nugent, thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. How are you?
Well, thanks very much, Dave. It's great to be here with you. And I'm very well, but I'm going to pick you up on a couple of things there. Number one, you mentioned I spent 2 periods. It should have been at Findhorn. The place in northern Scotland is called Findhorn. It's a very famous place. It certainly was back in the 60s and 70s. They grew phenomenal vegetables by communication with the Devas. And the title of the book is Maya Maya, M-A-Y-A, Maya. It's a Sanskrit word for illusion, and Maya as in quagmire. So we might get into a bit of that later on, but great to be with you.
How did you get your start into wondering what all of these spiritual journeys and cosmic truths are?
Yeah. Well, the book, Dave, as you may know, is in 2 parts. And part 1 is called The Things I Knew Before I Was Born. So in terms of what got me started in this, I think that really it was just a sort of carryover from previous lives. I mean, one thing we certainly recognize in the Ethereal Society is the whole concept of reincarnation. So I think it was something that was already inherent within me, and caused me to sort of struggle somewhat in my teenage years at school, because I just wasn't being taught anything that I really wanted to know. But I was, to that extent, another brick in the wall, and you have to sort of go through the motions. Wound up working in the wine trade in London. This is back in the early 1980s. But then it sort of began to kick in, you know, that there's more to life than just having a job, having a career, getting married, getting a mortgage, settling down, etc. So I think it was inherent within me, but it really began to stir where I could, you know, had to sort of address it in my early 20s, I would say.
Did you have spiritual experiences that led you down this path? Did you have strange encounters with phenomena that left you with many questions?
No, I mean, in that sense, you know, you could say I was innocent and naive. I wasn't. It wasn't really until I encountered the Ethereal Society in the mid 1980s that I'd ever really given any thought or consideration to anything non-terrestrial. But I do remember. I grew up in the north of England in a county called Yorkshire. And we were out I went in the middle of nowhere, but it was certainly the countryside. And I do remember, and I can have been no more than sort of 10 or 11 years of age. And I knew that I had there was something that I needed to sort of figure out that, again, I sort of inherently sort of sensed. What came to me, and as I say, this certainly wasn't construed because I was, you know, far too young and in that sense innocent to, you know, let it be a flight of fancy or whatever. But I felt, and I'll use that word felt, but it answered my problem at that time. I felt that I had a connection with Christ, which I know is a sort of very far out, you know, almost ridiculous thing to say. But I would say, certainly given the course that my life has taken, I would say that I certainly was around at the time of Christ. I'm not putting it in, certainly wouldn't go so far as to say I had any close connection with him or anything like that. But he had been well, I was going to say he'd been a prominent figure in at least one of my past lives. Or else I'd just been a very sort of, you could say, active Christian in a previous life. I don't know, but other than that, I can't really think that there was anything that was too sort of, you know, striking or unusual.
Did you believe in past lives?
No, not at that time. Never thought of it. It wasn't until, well, as I said, I was working in the wine trade, and I'd studied hotel management for 3 years, and all I remember at the end of it was thinking, I never want to work in a hotel in my life. But during the, you know, the period of that period of study at college, it introduced me to wine, and I thought, oh, well, here's something that maybe I can, you know, take more seriously. And so it wasn't until my boss, who was himself, spiritually inclined himself, he was the one who introduced me to a school of Eastern philosophy in London at the time, and there I was inevitably introduced to the concepts of karma and reincarnation. This was after I'd sort of found for myself the Christian path in that initial quest. And anyway, it wasn't when I began to sort of go to this Eastern school of philosophy and was introduced to karma and reincarnation. They both resonated with me, something I couldn't ignore. Took it seriously. I can't hear you, Dave.
As you take this cosmic journey that you have set out for yourself, I'm assuming the intrigue and the intent were polar opposite in your mind before you entered.
No, it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was polar opposite. You see what? I'd say that I was just sort of, again, too sort of innocent and naive. It was just a question of whether something actually resonated with me as being true. I think we've all got this inherent sense within us of recognizing when something is true and when it isn't, but when it's BS, you could say. And you see, coming back to what triggered all of this. There I was working in London in the wine trade, etc. Sensing that there was something absent, in my life, something far more meaningful. Having been raised in the Christian church, I had no other book to turn to and didn't think of anything else. But I read the four Gospels, and they had a very, very sort of profound effect upon me. I recognized that this was inherently true, and how we should be living as human beings on this earth. I mean, Jesus demonstrated to us how we should live, how we should treat one another, etc. So that was my sort of bedrock. Then, as I say, I was introduced to this school of Eastern philosophy in London, karma and reincarnation, not in the orthodox teachings of Christianity. One can certainly make a case that they are there, or else they were taken out. But that resonated with me. And then when I was introduced to the Aetherius Society, which incorporates the whole essence of life beyond this earth, not only beyond death, but life beyond this planet, that also resonated with me as being something that that just rang true. I didn't immediately accept it, but I sort of spent 2 years studying the teachings of the Aetherius Society, engaging with the people, and the practices. And in the end, I recognized that this was something that I couldn't ignore and had to take far more seriously.
Did it really change the way you looked at religion and the way you were brought up?
No, it didn't. And all that it did was expand it. You see, the founder of the Aetherius Society, and you mentioned this in your introduction, was a man called Dr. George King, who, coming out of, he was born in England in 1919. 20 years later, of course, along comes the Second World War. He's 20 years of age, so he's of prime fighting age. And but he intuitively knew again that the far greater law, "Thou shalt not kill," was literally a law. It was a universal law. It wasn't just a man-made law. It was greater than that. And so the consequence was that he became a conscientious objector. But which I would say, it takes a lot of courage to be a conscientious objector. But at the same time, he recognized that Nazism was, an evil force, you could say. There was nothing good about Adolf Hitler. So he wanted to help, he wanted to serve. And he joined the fire service in London, the fire brigade, went through the Blitz, and saw, the absolute madness, the inhumanity of man to man, the sort of bombing period, killing period. But here we are, bombing civilians, the elderly, babies, in their own homes, having bombs dropped on them, all kinds of mayhem, and the terror and the madness of it. And the consequence of that whole experience led him to study and practice various forms of yoga, which he did for up to 8 hours a day over a 10-year period. And the consequence of such intense yogic practice was that a force that we all have in the base of the spine called the Kundalini naturally rose through a channel in the spine called the Sushumna channel, opening the chakras, the psychic centers that we all have in our aura. And he was able to take the Kundalini up to the higher centers, the Christ center, the Crown center. And this was, by this time, we'd gone from beyond the Second World War into the Cold War, which was, the hallmark of that was atom bombs. At least we dropped two atom bombs. We were now testing atom bombs and later hydrogen bombs. It was a world gone completely nuts. But it was also a time of, increased sightings of flying saucers. And Dr. George King, with his ability to raise the Kundalini into the highest chakras, enabled him to go into the highest state of meditation known as samadhi. Again, these are Sanskrit words. And it was with that ability that in 1954, he was first contacted by an intelligence, we believe, from Venus. I mean, we're not talking about the physical plane of Venus, we're talking about higher dimensions. This intelligence went by the name of Aetherius. And that led to George King founding the Aetherius Society. Now, to come back to what my Christianity, whether all this affected my Christianity or Eastern philosophy or whatever else. On 12 consecutive Sundays in 1958, Dr. George King received, we believe, in the Aetherius Society, communication, and this is all recorded. This isn't, just sort of fabricated and woo, as it's called. This was all recorded with Dr. George King in what we call a positive yogic samadhic trance, receiving communication from Jesus. This is the same Jesus who walked on earth 2,000 years ago, not dead, demonstrated, through the resurrection, the whole issue of ascension, something we can all attain. And we also believe there's a Venusian master. And so I would go to the Aetherius Society, in the 1980s, and would hear these transmissions that, as delivered by Jesus in 1958 through Dr. George King. And they were incredibly profound. It resonated with me in the same way that the Christian teachings of Christ 2,000 years ago had resonated. So, as I say, all that it really did was a mushrooming of my understanding that sort of incorporated the laws of karma and reincarnation, but given in a way that was relevant for humanity at this critical time of our own evolution.
For a lot of people hearing this for the first time, they may look at this and say, that's pretty heavy stuff. Jesus, aliens, all under one roof together, because it's been so segregated that Jesus is the Son of God and everything like that. And aliens are way over there. The Venusians are way over there.
Yeah, well, I think that that just sort of requires a sort of maybe just a realignment of thought, because it isn't actually so ridiculous or far-fetched. I mean, we've been sort of led to think of aliens as weird-looking creatures, etc., etc. And that isn't necessarily the case. That's not to say that there aren't some probably very unusual aliens out there. I mean, space is big, as you and your audience will know, very big. But we're talking about within our own solar system. And I think that the Bible itself is a wonderful catalogue of UFO experiences. I mean, and perhaps the best one of all is the Star of Bethlehem. I mean, stars aren't suns. Sorry, stars are suns. Suns don't hover over stables. Flying saucers can. And I think that for anybody who sort of believes in or recognizes the concept of reincarnation, well, where do we go? We go to another realm, if you like, an astral realm, another level of frequency. And it makes just as much sense, well, for those levels of frequency to exist throughout all of creation, certainly, throughout our own solar system. So I think two things. I think with a little bit of analysis, and I think a little bit of, again, tuning into one's own inherent sense of, does this make sense? Well, for me anyway, it did make sense. I mean, where is Jesus? Is he sitting at the right hand of God? Well, where's God sitting? I mean, it's just farcical, really, particularly with what we now understand about the vastness of space. And yet, well, where is he? And I think to consider that he's actually came from a higher dimension. I mean, the point is that we're all here to evolve. Everything is evolving. Everything is, in inverted commas, again, in that yogic sense, going back to God from which it came. And you can ask why, and that you could say is the fundamental question. But I would argue, certainly we would argue in the Ethereal Society, is that the journey just gets more and more and more incredible with enhanced levels of consciousness. We've just got no concept. We're at a very, very elementary stage, down here on Earth. We would argue we've destroyed ourselves 2 times already. That's actually why flying saucers were so commonly seen during the Cold War, because there we are going hammer and tongs once again to try and destroy our civilization. It's a habit we need to break.
We got just over a minute to go here before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Paul Nugent is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Do you think then that everything is tied together? The phenomenon is all one?
Yes, I would say that it's oneness. It's all oneness, and that is what the experience of samadhic consciousness. One of the things samadhic consciousness will inform us of, that it is all one, and it's all. When I say a blissful state, well, it is, but I mean it has profound purpose behind it.
It's funny because when I first started doing this show almost 10 years ago, everything was so segregated. Paranormal was paranormal, UFOs were UFOs, cryptids were way over here. And now there are more and more researchers figuring it out that everything seems to have commonality and oneness to it. And that it's not just separated phenomena, it's all oneness, just like you just said.
Well, very briefly, Dave, but I would say that with the development of the James Webb Space Telescope, that scientists, astrophysicists are coming to the realization that there must be something behind it.
Hold that thought, Paul. We are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Paul Nugent is here. Let's learn about oneness when we return for the next half hour of Spaced Out Radio. All right, we are clear. Excuse me. Having fun yet?
We're doing all right, Dave. We're holding an even strain.
What's that?
We're holding an even strain, I think the saying goes.
I love it. I love it. Mm-hmm. So what do you like to do for fun?
What do I do like for fun? Well, gosh, that's a good question. What do I like to do for fun? I had a serious accident about exactly 9 weeks ago. I came off my moped, wound up in the hospital having surgery. I was very dinged up. I still got damaged ribs. I had not major, but that's surgery on my elbow. So I've been a bit sort of out of my normal mode. I love art, any form of art. I love the outdoors. I enjoy people, actually. Don't say I actually like people on the whole, or at least I enjoy intelligent conversation. Yeah, and good company, good conversation. Is a wonderful pleasure. And I'm getting on. I mean, I'm getting on. I'm turning 66. I just enjoy being at home with my wife, cats, and taking care of the garden, fixing things in the house that need fixing, and futzing about. But I'm also very active in the Ethereal Society here at the local branch. Very active. That's my passion.
I don't blame you. We're all going to have that passion, man. All going to have that passion. Let's see here. My passion is radio and chasing monsters. The rest of it, well, it just kind of falls in between and hinders what I want to do. That's okay. Kira says, Paul sounds like me. Love intelligent conversations with being in nature. Says the 6-foot blonde Nordic that she is. All right, we've got about just under 2 minutes here, my man. Thank you, Simon. Dave's passion is Taco Bell. Yes. Yes, it is. I love a good Taco Bell. Paul, you're not even moving. You're going to know if you're frozen or not.
All right.
Oh, I got corrected. Kira says, Dave, I'm only 5'11". You're still a Nordic goddess, Kira. Still a Nordic goddess. We got about All right, 25 seconds. And thank you, Cosmic Joe, for the super chat. Wonderful way to support what we do. And here we go, everybody. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway. We're going to talk oneness with Paul Nugent here momentarily. My name is Dave Scott. I'm in the captain's chair bringing this great nightly show to you. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Paul Nugent is here. He's got a book out, Maya Meyer, and a spiritual journey into cosmic truth and the dawning of a new world. We're talking oneness right now. Paul, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, it's great to be with you, Dave. And what better subject than oneness? Well, you can't really talk about anything that isn't part of the oneness.
It really defines everything. And when you finally open up your mind to it, it really is a whole new reality of life, isn't it?
It's a complete game changer. It's a reality I think the world needs. And I'd say that it's the cosmic message that actually was delivered through George King. In fact, just one statement alone from the master theorist. I mean, George King overall took 600 of these cosmic transmissions by going into a positive yogic samadhic trance, so that, as I say, these intelligences from the higher dimensions of the other planets, primarily within our own solar system, could speak with him. But I mean, just on the concept of oneness, one statement made by the master theorist is that love is an ardent belief in oneness.
Mm-hmm. Now, we can recognize love through many different ways. We can recognize it from person to person, family, from animals such as pets, sexuality, absolutely everything. Do we get love from the cosmic source, say from aliens or other dimensional beings?
I don't. Again, coming back to the teachings of the Aetherius, in fact, there's one book, the Aetherius Society. The teachings. This book, the nine freedoms. This was communicated through Dr. George King in February, March 1961. But I don't think we've begun to really understand what love is. And actually, the cosmos actually is nothing but love. Well, because it all originates from this so-called singularity. Well, even before the singularity, this essence of God. It is the nature of the universe. I'm not saying the universe is full of just good and nice and holy beings. We recognize that we have it here on Earth. I mean, there are dark forces, so to speak, out there. Still a part of the oneness. Still a part of the oneness. It's part of the concept. But fundamentally, the universe is this energy of love. But on higher and higher and higher levels of frequencies. As I said, we're at a very low level of evolution. And when we get into the sort of level of the Jesus, individuals such as Jesus or the Buddha or Sri Krishna or other great masters who've come to Earth and where they're from, they're operating at a far greater realization and understanding of this energy of love, and you could say of the magnificence of God. But even that is still a fairly, dare I say, with all due respect to those masters, a fairly low level in the grand scheme of everything.
Are ethereal beings the ones who are really calling the shots with what happens here on Earth?
Yes and no, I would say to that. Yes, they influence us, but you know, and this is, you know, part of the story in Maya Maya. We have free will, and they do not, will not, by karmic law, infringe upon our free will. We have that choice, but I think, well, you see, for us as humans, there are higher realms, there are higher dimensions. There are higher dimensions around this planet, the so-called heaven, temporary. You come back through reincarnation. But there are the other higher realms of the other planets which influence us. But there are also lower realms. I mean, why do we have the situation we have in the world today? Why did we have world war in the last century on 2 occasions? You know, why do we have the so-called evil that we have? There are intelligent, but not well-meaning intelligences, and we here on this physical realm on Earth in this incarnation are free to choose, but there are these influences, and I think that comes back, you know, what I was saying at the very beginning, you know, what we inherently know to be true within ourselves. I think we all have, I hope we all have, you know, such a thing as a conscience. We have a conscience, and the question is, to what extent do we listen to that conscience?
I don't think too many people actually do listen to their conscience right now.
I agree with you.
Considering the way society has turned, especially in Western society.
Yeah, I very much agree with you. It's and I think that it's you know, the danger is through not listening to our conscience. I think that if one wants a solution to you know, the world condition, it will take each and every one of us to sort of get in touch with what's inherent within us. In fact, again, coming back to a teaching from the Master Aetherius, this was in 1959. George King had established quite a reputation because you know, by bringing through these what we call cosmic transmissions. He used to do it up in a place called the Caxton Hall in London that would be absolutely packed and be standing room only, because it was quite incredible to hear these, you know, these transmissions. And anyway, it reached the BBC, which back in those days was sort of, it was all black and white, but it was a lot of it was live. And he was invited onto a live BBC program that was all about him, because, you know, out of curiosity and fascination. And he was interviewed by 2 psychiatrists, and I think the other one was an astronomer, who were sort of dubious of Dr. George King. But anyway, at the end of George King was asked if he could go into trance under the sort of glaring lights of the BBC. Again, it's in my book, Maya Maya. And he said, yes, he could. And it's very dangerous to go into this elevated state of cosmic consciousness, certainly on live television. So the interviewer was able to have a 2-way conversation with the Master Aetherius. And at the end of the conversation, the interviewer asked the Master Aetherius if he had any advice he would like to give. And the Master Aetherius replied, yes. He said, if you are a Christian, live the laws as given by Jesus. If you are a Buddhist, live the laws as given by the Buddha. If you are a Hindu, be the best Hindu. This is one sure way that will save humanity from our lower aspects. We have been told in the past, I mean, coming back to our conversation at the beginning, what Jesus Christ was about, for me, rang true. It is how we should be living. We have been told, we have been taught these things. And, the whole world has been taught higher laws, the natural laws, the great laws, the laws that will lead us to enlightenment. But we just need to have the courage and the bravery to heed it within ourselves, because it goes against the flow of our very dumbed down conditioning.
Human minds have been conditioned that as we, go into a very technological century here in the 21st century, we have really seemed to lose our spirituality and our contact for the most part, where getting in touch with one's Zen, their chi, their spirit guides, their angels, or whatever you want to call it, seems to be of a lost cause for many people. But on the flip side, this younger generation that we see, people say 25 and younger, they seem to be reaching back out towards that. They're not as interested in careers and finances as they are about being their true selves. Is that a benefit to humanity, that it's growing up spiritually?
I'd say anything that grows up spiritually has got to be a huge benefit. I remember years ago when I was in that period of the 80s, when I was studying Eastern philosophy and going to Finborn and the Aetherius Society, reading an article by the late Soviet writer, philosopher Alexander Solzhenitsyn. And he said the trouble with the West is that we've lost our consciousness of God. And I think, we have. It defines certainly Western civilization, which unfortunately drives global civilization. But we've lost that sense of awe and wonder as to, we don't see the stars at night the way we used to. Certainly if we're living in cities, which is what most people do. We don't see nature. We're not involved in it. And I think as for the younger generation, I completely sympathize with their predicament, because trying to, first of all, they're saddled with debt, a lot of them, coming out of college or university. They're handicapped at the get-go. Any prospect of being able to sort of buy a house and get married and start a family, crikey, maybe less than 5% are in the position to do that. I mean, life is a major challenge just to survive, and I can understand why they would, to as much as they can, choose to sort of drop out, or at least question the world that we've created for them. It is totally messed up. And I think it's a natural consequence for them to start asking bigger questions. In fact, just today I got this email from an 18-year-old who stumbled across the Aetherius Society, actually through quite an interesting way. But he's incredibly intelligent. So for someone who's only 18 years of age. But yeah, I can understand why they are just questioning this world that we're in the process of handing over to them. It's a mess, and fundamentally, it's a spiritual mess. And I think anything that's going to drive that generation, any generation, to sort of question who we are and how we are, how we're living, is vital.
How do we get the older generations to find their spirituality again when they're worried about mortgages, they're worried about their children. They're worried about paying for college with the never plan on student loans. They're worried about which vehicle they drive, where they're going to vacation, can they vacation, inflation, food. I mean, there's a lot of worries on the 25 and up crowd.
Well, it's very true, Dave. I mean, it's just far from being a happy world, let alone a joyful one. I sort of tend to think that what the world needs to shake it out of that, because it's got to be collective, is shock. And there's a wonderful, I don't know if you're familiar with the I Ching, but there's a hexagram which is shock comes, ha, ha, ha. Shock awakens us to something bigger than ourselves in a way, something that appears frightening and certainly can be frightening. Now, I think there's various ways this shock can come about. Hopefully, it won't come through atomic war, but that certainly is a potential. I mean, that would shock us all to this. Oh my God, what have we done? I mean, much like Oppenheimer, for those who've seen the film or know the story, you know, the reaction was, oh my God, what have I done? You know, it doesn't get more shocking than that. It could be economic, social collapse, certainly economic collapse. Again, you know, it may sound like something that's needed, but I think that it would turn ugly very quickly. Or yeah, well, very difficult. I mean, it would be a far from, you know, good scenario. And another way, of course, is through an unequivocal appearance of a UFO. And I think that there's, you know, a lot of people might think, well, that'd be a wonderful thing. And I think in certain ways it would be a wonderful thing. But I think that these cosmic I think the unfortunate thing is if that was the case, we would very quickly turn into rioting and looting and shooting and, you know, chaos, disorder. Unfortunately, I think that is the reaction. And I think that's the reason why such a thing doesn't happen. We're not yet sort of mentally and certainly spiritually ready for that yet. I think they've been incredibly subtle about it. You know, earlier on you were showing pictures of crop circles. I mean, that's one way. I think that, you know, obviously they're not being made by human beings. It should trigger us to ask, well, where are they coming from? So I think they're doing it in a very subtle way, and it is coming out now more and more with sightings of what used to be called UFOs, still are, but now, as you'll know, they're referred to as UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. But I mean, it has come not only in, well, it's coming more and more into the mainstream. It's certainly come into government circles. And I think because the government's not, number one, can't ignore it. And it's getting perhaps to a stage where neither can they cover it up. And we may see, you know, in the coming weeks, months, certainly years, more and more of these sightings that are very subtly awakening humanity to see it's not human. That is not, what is it?
Right.
But it needs to be, you know, you could liken it a little bit to the unfortunate frog that gets heated in the boiled water. You know, it's not chucked in like a lobster that's chucked in a pan of boiling water, but it's gradually, you know, the water's gradually heated around it. We need something like that is going to shift us. And I think at the same time, there is also a rising consciousness that is taking place within, you know, greater numbers of humanity. Most of us are ready to live in a much more sort of, dare I say, civilized world, a world of cooperation, a world without all this sort of greed and hatred and war and whatever, you know, all that stuff. In fact, that is a core principle teaching behind, you know, the message of these cosmic masters who spoke through George King. Because, to sort of wrap that up, this shift that is inevitably happening, coming back to natural evolution, the process of evolution, it's about the Mother Earth. It's about the whole solar system. It's not just about us. We're locked into thinking everything's about us. It isn't. Everything, coming back to the oneness, is living. Everything is evolving, and that includes Mother Earth. She's changing, and it's putting a pressure on us. There's literally a pressure, a karmic pressure, for us to shift and evolve and grow up, you could say. It's all written about in Maya, Dave.
Question about extraterrestrials when it comes to oneness and spirituality. From what you have learned, are they connected to the oneness as well? Do they have a belief in a God or our God, or do they have their own belief system on what is really out there?
Well, probably let me begin by saying that I can't really speak for extraterrestrials, but what's being communicated through us, and this was particularly coming back to the 12 blessings as given by Jesus on 12 consecutive Sundays in 1958, what drew me as an active Christian to sort of take the Ethereal Society seriously. These 12 blessings, they're really a cosmic extension to Jesus' Sermon on the Mount 2,000 years ago. It begins with, blessed are they who work for peace. Blessed are the wise ones. Blessed are they who love. Blessed are the planetary ones. And it goes on, and blessed is the Mother Earth. Blessed is the mighty Sun. And blessed are the supreme lords of Karma. These are beings. The Mother Earth is a being. The Sun is a being. It has extremely evolved consciousness. And it gets to the 11th blessing, which is a blessing to the supreme lords of creation. Vast and cosmic. There's no way we could be. It says actually, these are beyond the comprehension of the suns. Beyond the comprehension of the sun. So there's no way we can wrap our heads around it. And then the 12th blessing, which is a blessing to the absolute, what they refer to as what Jesus refers to as the absolute, is not even the supreme lords of all creation, who are the gods of the gods, can do justice to the picturization of the magnificence of God, for want of another word. So we live in a universe that is accelerating in its expansion on a sort of exponential scale. There's no way we can wrap our heads around it. We can only begin to accept it for what it is, and in that acceptance or that realization, we're overwhelmed with awe. But as I also said earlier on, it's the energy of creation is love, and how that filters down to us. And it is literally, when I say filters down, we're at a very low level of understanding what that energy of love is. In fact, it's said in the 9 freedoms, we know not what love be until we enter the gates of the sun. And the sun's, the lords of creation are beyond the comprehension of the sun. So it is literally this sort of exponential scale that we're a part of in this oneness. Behind it all is this utterly unknowable, unfathomable thing we refer to, for want of another or better word, as God.
We got about 29 seconds to go here before we go to break at the bottom of the hour, or top of the hour, rather. Geez, flying on by here. I thought we were only near the bottom here, but my goodness, Paul Nugent is educating us tonight. The spirit of oneness. We're going to find out what else strokes his Zen and Chi about the spiritual world and the cosmic journey that he is on. Are we all on a cosmic journey? I think we are. Most of us just need to find it. And that's what makes it so much fun. Spaced Out Radio, we'll be right back after this break. And Paul Nugent will also return. You can get his books on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's definitely worth adding to your library. We'll be right back, everybody. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, there we go. We are clear. I'm going to take a quick break here. I'm going to put you back in the green room, and I'll be right back, okay?
All right.
All right. Be right back, everybody. right, we are back. We got 1 minute to go. Let's bring Paul back in here. Thank you, Cosmic Joe, for the lone super chat tonight. Hi, Brian Dodd. How you doing? And let's see, Abbott Hoffman. Good to see you. Michael Gutierrez, thanks for coming on in. Anybody else we missed here? If you have questions for Paul, you can put them in capital letters. I will get them to Paul here as we continue on with the show here in hour number 2. So feel free to ask your questions. Oh, sweet Ravi G. You make me laugh. Hi, Jeff. Steve Garvey. He'll hit a home run for you. And here we go, everybody. Here is hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for joining us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Cosmic. Cosmic is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Author, researcher, Paul Nugent is here tonight on the big show, and we are talking about cosmic journeys. And Paul, thank you so much for joining us tonight. What is a cosmic journey? Are we all on one?
We are indeed, Dave, and we have been for a very long time. Our understand, I mean, since the beginning, or we could say that's at least 13.8 billion years ago, but it was even before that. But relative to us on Earth, our understanding in the Ethereal Society is that this journey, so-called cosmic journey, started over 18 million years ago with the destruction of a planet we previously inhabited called Maldek. All that remains of Maldek is the asteroid belt. And there's been some, fairly recent discoveries about the asteroid belt that sort of increasingly lead one to question, was that a planet? For example, I mean, the discovery of a gigantic iron core at the basis of all planets. And it also fits into this remarkable numerical sequence known as Bode's law that would indicate that where the asteroid belt, there should have been a planet, if you go with this incredible sequence. It's what enabled astronomers in the last few centuries to discover the outer planets by following that sequence. But anyway, our understanding is that we inhabited Maldek, we became very technologically advanced, and we destroyed the planet. But being a part of the oneness, coming back to oneness, we're a part of the oneness. There's good and evil forces at work, the sort of duality, if you like. And we needed somewhere to continue this evolutionary journey, this cosmic journey. And the Earth was approached. We're talking over 18 million years ago. And she accepted that process, very slow process of reincarnation. And eventually, over millions of years, we evolved into an advanced planetary culture once again, civilization, known as Lemuria. But the sort of elements of free will and ignorance and division were still inherent within us, and we destroyed that civilization. Again, the whole process of reincarnation under the within the concept of oneness and the laws of karma stepped in, and slowly we evolved back to another advanced civilization known as Atlantis, which again we destroyed through the intense misuse of atomic power, which had been the method previously. And that's why, you know, as I was saying earlier on, during the Second World War, when we went on to develop atom bombs and later hydrogen bombs in the Cold War, when flying saucers were very commonly seen, because they've seen us go down this route, we said, as they say in America. I don't know what you say in Canada, route, what route here in the United States. They'd seen us do this, you know, before, and we're here to sort of guide and warn us. Number one, I mean, in the early years of the Ethereal Society, a big part of the message was to warn us against the use of atomic power, because we don't, it's a very sacred energy. And, you know, all we'd ever done with it was use it for destructive purposes. And we still, that's the world in which we, you know, we live today. But the evolutionary journey, this cosmic journey that we're all on, is to greater and greater states of realization, coming back to the magnificence of God, and the yogic journey, the yogic tradition of raising Kundalini and raising levels of consciousness. That's our heritage. That's our future. We've just got to realize that and stop messing it up. And so that's the journey we're on. And it goes, as I say, I mean, it goes beyond, doesn't just go beyond death, but it goes beyond earth. Nirvana, I would say, is the beginning. We haven't got to the beginning yet. Yeah, it goes beyond this earth, goes beyond, I mean, there's a wonderful progression within the solar system, but it goes beyond the solar system. It's a super fantastic cosmic journey that we're all on.
How does one find it within themselves? Is it meditation? Is it trying to find their spiritual higher power?
Well, it's both of that, but it comes back to what we were saying earlier on about basically about bravery or courage, having the bravery, the courage to just say, hold on a minute, hold on a minute, because something has stirred within oneself. You know, this inner voice of conscience or truth that one no longer chooses to ignore. And it's pure. It's pure. It's pure goodness, you could say. It's truth. Yes, meditation is a way, but what's going to trigger one to want to engage in, you know, meditation practice or any other form of spiritual practice? I mean, it could be just walking alone in the woods. It, you know, an aspect of nature, something that just sort of prompts one to experience something within oneself that just resonates as being profoundly true. So it can be either something that comes externally or something that we deliberately internally seek. But whatever it is, it doesn't really matter what it is, just that shift happens.
How do we shift ourselves, our energy, to find that spiritual happiness?
Well, again, coming back to the youth, I mean, it's just sort of, if not disgust with the way we live, but just a sense that I don't relate to this. I mean, it's difficult because we are trapped in this so-called materialistic prison. I mean, you know, we all need somewhere to sleep at night. We all need to eat. We need, you know, we need to get around. I mean, we need money, so-called. But it's just become such a sort of corrupted system. I don't want to get, you know, go too far down rabbit holes here, but essentially it doesn't work for a lot of people anymore. And we've allowed that to happen. I mean, and we haven't taken care of ourselves. We haven't taken care of ourselves physically. we haven't taken care of ourselves emotionally, we haven't taken care of ourselves mentally, and certainly we haven't taken care of ourselves spiritually. But there, whatever it takes, whether it is just disenchant, it can be an accident. It can be something that happens to us in life that appears to be a terrible thing, a divorce or a breakup of a relationship or an illness. I mean, something that on the face of it obviously is not anything that one would wish to happen to oneself or anybody else. But, out of a sort of seemingly bad situation, that can, if that triggers us to, relook at life and relook at how we're living our own life, then that's a good outcome.
Many of us try to be better. Many of us try to find that spiritual bliss that we have, but everyday life gets in between, whether it's paying bills or whether it's the job or the kids or relationships or what have you. Is there a way to find that spiritual progression when so many people lack time to do things?
Yeah, I think the answer to that is make it incremental. We live very much in a sort of I want it all now culture. It doesn't happen that way. But if you can, if you can catch yourself from an old habit and just sort of and take that moment, not it might be smoking, for an example, or drugs, and you want to kick that habit. If you can start just on an incremental daily basis, just sort of rein it in a little bit, bit by bit process. I think that within, I mean, it's a cliche obviously, but I mean within a week there'll be a difference. Within a month there'll be a big difference, and within 6 months you'll be changed. So it's finding little ways on a day-by-day basis to make that change. And most importantly, is having the determination to succeed. The will is huge. Willpower. I mean, I've talked about free will, and free will's what's got us into this situation. There's also divine will. There's divine will. There's this universal will of the cosmos, of the oneness. And it's inherent in every single one of us. We all have access to divine will. That's where the conscience comes in. The conscience is, is it the blue pill or the red pill? Are we going to go with free will, or are we going to go with conscience? In a divine will, conscience in any given moment. So it's a process. It's a process.
What about Christ consciousness? Where does that come into play?
Well, that takes a bit longer, Dave, but that takes lifetimes. But it's the journey we're all on. We're here to raise Kundalini. Yes, have kids, whatever, propagate the race, but fundamentally, once that's sort of been done, if it's a personal need, it isn't a personal need for us. But fundamentally, we're here to raise this force called the Kundalini up through, as I mentioned, a column in the spine called the Sushumna channel, and open the chakras until the solar plexus, the Christ center, the throat center, heart center, throat center, Christ center, crown center. That takes tremendous willpower, tremendous determination, discipline, perhaps most of all. But it's what we're here to do. And when we, by raising the Kundalini up to the Christ consciousness, or cosmic consciousness as it's otherwise known, when we can do that at will, and as I say, this is more difficult, this is what takes lifetimes, but when we can do that at will, as demonstrated by individuals such as Jesus and Buddha and various yogis from the East, then we've mastered terrestrial life, you could say. We've mastered it. We can sort of, do. We can sort of we can walk through closed doors. We can levitate. We can manifest. All of those sorts of things we would be able to do. Not that there's anything, essentially inherently valuable in those things, but that's what yogis are able to do, exist without eating or whatever. But we've learned the lessons of Earth, and having done that, then the next stage in this evolutionary journey is literally ascension. We're no longer bound to this Earth, and we go on to interplanetary existence. Now, we're not by any stretch of the means, when I say we, well, certainly I'm not. That's a longer process, and it begins. This is all outlined in the 9 freedoms. And it's all mentioned in Maya Maya. But it begins with bravery. The first stage, the first freedom is bravery, having that courage to take the steps we've been talking about. Behind that is love. And what's behind love is service. So our life sort of gets reorientated from instead of being a very sort of selfish, small-minded little world in which we exist, we break out of that. And it inevitably and naturally becomes a path of service, where actually you're helping others. You're taking care of your neighbor. You're doing something for a stranger. And out of this also comes a richness. There's something very wonderful about it, because it is the natural path. It's the natural way. There's a lovely saying, just sort of wrap this up, but you say, if you want happiness for an hour, take a nap. If you want happiness for a day, and I guess this is talking for guys, maybe guys in British Columbia, go fishing. If you want happiness for a year, inherit a fortune. And if you want happiness for a lifetime, help others, serve others. And I think that, the reason I like that so much, because I think it's inherently true. We get back when we take care of other people and do things that are good for the community or whatever, that aren't on the face of it, have nothing in it for ourselves. We still get fed from that. It's a good day. We enjoy our day instead of a miserable, lonely, isolated day.
That's one way to look at it. It's a positive way to look at it. That's for sure. We got about 5.5 minutes before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Paul Nugent is our guest tonight. Let's go to a quick audience question here from Matthew. How do we find the journey, or is it one that you have to find it on your own?
How do you find the journey? Well, I'd say it's speaking to you. I can't. Nobody gave me my journey, and I don't think anybody can or could give me my journey. And I think it's the same for every single one of us. It's the voice that is speaking inside of oneself. We all inherently know, and Dr. King, who would project onto the other realms, higher and lower realms around this earth, where we go when we die. But I mean, one of the things he would, often say is he's met so many people on the other realms who've passed on, who can see. And I had this own experience with my own brother when he died. But when they pass on and understand that what life really is in this whole vast concept of oneness, and there really is no such thing as death, and what our purpose was when we were in the physical body, where on this karmic realm, the regret and the remorse of a wasted life. I wasted my life. I had this life and I utterly wasted it. And it's a very, very, very important message. This life we have, it's a gift. It's a gift, but we have to find it, that truth for each and every one of us. We have to find it. And out of it, it will glow and it will grow and it will fly. You know, coming back to Jesus, the kingdom of God is within you. It's within you. It's finding that.
Okay. As we get personal about this, what about the connection to the spirit realm? Ghosts, spirits, entities. Many people find that they have hitchhikers going on them. Are these ethereal beings? Are they from a different area? Are they still here? Are they from a different dimension?
They're from a different dimension. An astral realm. And yes, one can sort of psychically have some form of interaction with these astral entities. You know, in terms of ghosts, they're stuck. I mean, I won't say it was my God, dear brother, was a ghost, but he died, suddenly, very, very suddenly, and he was in a state of shock, as is often the case in a sudden death, and particularly when one's never really thought about life after death, he needed help to just shift him, on his way. And I had this wonderful communication or communion with my brother, and was able, I feel, sent strongly to help him. And he communicated me this message to give to his wife, which I obviously did to one of my, as if she didn't know that he died, but he didn't know that she didn't know that he died. See what I mean? And it was, I think it was enormously beneficial for them both. So yes, there are astral entities. I don't think we want to get, when I say, again, coming back to Jesus, I've come to judge the quick, not the dead. The dead are dealing with their own issues in their own ways, on their own levels. We're here to do what we're supposed to be doing in this physical life.
How does a ghost stay grumpy?
How does a ghost stay grubby?
Grumpy.
Grumpy. Well, they're stuck. They're confused. They're not where they're supposed to be, and they need literally help or sort of a transmutation. And maybe a shock or something. Or they need a whack, a kick up the butt. A whack to the side of the head. Oh, go on, move on. You're stuck, and you've got other work to do. Your place is not here right now. Off, gone. Boom, and they need release. So yeah, I mean that's why they're grumpy, because they're stuck somewhere where they're confused and don't want to be.
I guess, can you blame them?
Sorry?
I said, I guess, can you blame them? One minute you're living a great life.
But what value does blame have? I wouldn't say blame. But no, you see, at the end of the day, everything responds to love.
Right.
Everything.
And on that note, we're going to say we got Paul Nugent till the top of the hour here on Spaced Out Radio. We'll talk more spirit realm when we return.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right. We are clear. It's been fun, Paul.
Yeah. Yeah, it's way past my bedtime, though, Dave.
Oh, my bedtime's in about 2.5 hours.
Okay, so that's the 2 o'clock, 3, 4, 1 a.m. 1 a.m. for you?
Yep, usually around 1 a.m.
Right. Well, I like to be fast asleep by 11. Generally am.
You're doing great.
Oh, thank you.
We're almost there, man.
I can hang on. I can just hang on for another half hour. Well, I'm happy to talk about these things, and you know,
I hear you.
if it's useful to anybody.
I hear you, my man.
Is it warm out there where you are?
It's starting to cool down.
You mean fall?
Yeah.
But it has been hot. You had a hot summer?
Yeah, we had a hot summer. The nights are getting down to single digits.
Are they really? Crikey.
Yeah. And, in no time, in about, what's the date today? 19th. So in about a month from now, month and a half, that's when the snow will start.
End of October.
Usually.
And you always get snow.
Last year we didn't get much.
Yeah, same here as in Michigan. Not that I was here, but they say very little.
Yeah. The La Nina really screwed things up here last year.
Oh, well, the summer, you mean heat.
Yeah. So it was, or El Nino. That's what it was.
Well, they say in Michigan that everybody said, "Why are you moving to Michigan? It's freezing cold and all this." But the locals say, "Well, actually, they always used to get deep snow every winter, but increasingly in the last 10 years or so, it's just getting less and less."
Yeah, my area used to get, you would see snow piles up to, we get about, on average, about 6 feet of snow a year where I live. But it comes in accumulations. And like the first snow of the year will melt. And then the second snow of the year happens. And then when that starts to kind of fade away, we get the third snow of the year. I don't mind. I like the snow. The snow is fun. Around here, it's a very dry snow, so it's easy to move.
Nice. Yeah.
But it's the winter wind and the winter chill factor I can't stand. It gets around minus 40 Celsius, which is also minus 40 Fahrenheit.
Yeah, that's cold.
Yeah. It's funny though, because you become acclimated real quick. When I first moved up here 9 years ago, I could tell the difference between minus 15 Celsius and minus 16 Celsius.
Really?
And then the next year I got acclimated to about minus 17, when the nose hairs start to freeze.
Yeah.
And then I'm kind of acclimated now to about minus 20 to minus 25 Celsius. When it gets to that minus 28 to minus 31, I don't like that. And minus 36 to 40 just sucks. It just really sucks.
I can imagine. Yeah, so
it's when the cold hurts. Like the breathing hurts. Like you are literally breathing in icicles, right? But I've seen a bunch of cool things since I moved up here, man. Like I've seen it snow on blue sky days.
Really?
Because it's so cold that it just crystallizes the air and it falls like snow. And yet there's not a cloud in the sky. Never thought that was possible. But here we are.
Yeah.
Right? But we're supposed to be getting a real cold winter this year.
I
Mm-hmm. All right, my friend, we got about 12 seconds.
Okay.
Hi, Major Lee. How you doing? Oh, 5 seconds. Here comes the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. We always enjoy listening and broadcasting to each and every one of you out there in Radio Land. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/spaced out radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Final time tonight, we introduce you to Paul Nugent, author and researcher. And Paul, we're going to start off with a question from Jay here, who is asking, are you also familiar with the Unarius Society, aside from that, and similar to that of the Aetherius Society?
Yes, I am. Ruth Norman, I think, was the person who, or her and her husband. But yes, I am aware of the Unarius Society. That I think actually maybe it even started a little before the Aetherius Society. The Aetherius Society started in 1955. But in answer to the question, yes, I think I've even lectured at the Unarius Society several years ago. You see, the 50s, coming back to the Cold War and time of flying saucer sightings, but that was a sort of George Adamski era, and there were several of them seem to have been called George, but obviously George King. There was another George, George Hunt Williamson, I think. But organizations coming out of that period.
I want to ask you just a quick UFO question here, because recently it's kind of come out about King Charles and his addiction to UFOs. Do you think, with royalty being what it is today, that could have any pull on opening up more discussion within the United Kingdom, which would spread over to the U.S. because they're allies?
Well, I know addiction is a strong word. Addiction. I wasn't aware that the king was addicted. I'm not sure what that means to UFOs. Interested in the subject, if that's what you mean.
Yes.
Fascinated by it. I wasn't aware of that. I mean, I do know that King Charles has always been somewhat interested in esoteric things, as indeed was his father. The Duke of Edinburgh, I think, had communication with George King. He was very interested and had. My colleague Richard Lawrence writes about it in his book UFOs: The Extraterrestrial Message, about Prince Philip having some kind of engagement with at least somebody who had contact with extraterrestrial. So maybe it runs somewhat in the family. Yeah, I hope Charles the King will get a copy of Maya Maya.
That would be awesome, right?
Yeah.
That would be absolutely awesome. All right, let's move on and back to, the whole spiritual aspect of, well, let me ask you this. What are ghosts then? What are ghosts and spirits?
Ghosts, well, as I was saying, I mean, ghosts are, to the best of my knowledge and understanding, individuals who've died but haven't moved on, who've become stuck in an etheric realm they don't need to eat or any of those sorts of things. They need to embrace the next stage in their own karmic evolutionary journey. I mean, it's possible that you see some people, as we know, have a tremendous fear of death, which I think is an unfortunate thing. But it comes back to sort of I'm not saying it is always the case, that your conscience. We cannot cheat our conscience. And for anybody who has, in common parlance, committed a crime, but you could say a serious crime, that their conscience, that they've covered up, and their conscience knows that it was something that they ought not to have done, and then they're going to, very feasibly, fear death because of the consequence that will come from that. They may welcome death, where they can actually not necessarily, they can't be freed from it because karmically it will still need to be addressed, but where they get into a situation where they can address it because they've had remorse. They've got tremendous remorse. Remorse, I think, it certainly can be a wonderful thing. But so maybe ghosts that just have a fear of facing their future, so-called their immediate future, because they're carrying a serious regret that they haven't faced or dealt with. I'm not saying this categorically because I don't know. It's the simple answer.
Do you think then, when we are all kind of done on this planet and our run is done, do you think then that we have a choice of what happens in the ethereal, on whether it's reincarnating or whether it's moving on elsewhere?
No, I don't think we do have a choice at all. You see, we all create for ourselves what's called a karmic pattern by our deeds, by our thoughts, by our inactions. And when we pass on, having gone through a realm of waiting, so-called, and yes, I understand from what all these near-death experiences that one hears about, that yes, we're embraced by love, and I think that is, at some point, certainly is the case, because that's what it all is. And we go to a hall of judgment. I'm using parlance that we can kind of relate to. But we're not judged by any other force or individual. We judge ourselves. We're judged by ourselves, but we're judged by our true self, our higher self.
So sorry for cutting you off then.
Yeah.
Is there not a day of reckoning? Like,
well, I think that is the so-called day of reckoning. Again, to just use parlance that we can kind of relate to. But I do think that when we do die, and we've gone through that initial process of going, the channels of light or whatever, we go to this. Again, I call it it's not my terminology, but this hall of judgment, which is love. We look into this light energy. We look into this love energy. We look into that is described, this love and this light, and we see our failings. We see where we went wrong, where we fell down. We no doubt we also see what we did right, but we certainly see our failings. We see where we fell down. The river, and we go to the river wherein we fell. So in terms of, we will go for a period of time to a level of frequency either a lower astral realm or a higher realm, and for a period of time to learn lessons, whatever, to come to terms with, you could say, everything. And then at the right karmic moment, we will be reborn into an exact set of circumstances. And in our next life, certain things, yes, we've still got free will, but certain things are going to happen to us during the course of our life that are karmic lessons for us that we've created from previous lives for us to address and hopefully resolve. And when we act with love and kindness and in service, whatever, we are going to transmute those situations and move forward. That's my understanding of the process.
Give us an example of a karmic lesson.
Gosh. That is an interesting question. An example of you see, karmic lessons happen to us all the time. It's life. As John Lennon said, life is what happens, or something, while you're busy making other plans. Gosh, you might have stumped me there temporarily, Dave, because all our circumstances, in one form or another, I think for me, I, as an intuitively sensed, as a small boy of 10 or 11 years of age at the most, I had a connection. I say that loosely, but I felt a connection with Christ. Where did that come from? As I said, it might have been, from a previous life, or it might have been at the time of Christ. It was someone I'd seen. I might have been one of the, 5,000 in the multitude, whatever. Seen him close up. I don't know, but it drew me in this life to read the Gospels. It drew me to become engaged, as you read in the introduction, to become active in St. Martin in the Fields in Trafalgar Square, helping out. That's, I won't say it's necessary so much as a karmic lesson as a sort of destiny. Some people, why did I marry this person? Nothing happens by chance. I'm fortunately we're married to Eureka, my wife of 22 years. Why did we meet? There was some, karmic destiny that was necessary for us to meet. And she's been a wonderful help to me in my life. I hope I've been a help to her too. But we meet people, and there's always a lesson to be learned from all encounters that we have in life. And some of them aren't so, some of them are less pleasant than others. But if you can find the lesson in it, in the experience, that's what's, most necessary.
Can the afterlife be enjoyable, or is it always a hard lesson?
Again, it all depends on how we've lived our last life. If we haven't fulfilled our potential, if we haven't lived up to our highest good and done the things that you see, again, to throw this into your mix or the mix, I fully believe that we all have a soul. There is such a thing as a soul, that we have a soul, S-O-U-L, purpose, not which might not be an S-O-L-E purpose, but the soul has a purpose. It might, and I think it's the same for all of us. If you plant seeds in the ground, their purpose is to find the sun and break through the soil and fulfill the destiny of their seed. And it's the same for each and every one of us. And fundamentally, I'd say we all have that same ultimate purpose, although there will be layers of fulfilling it. We're not all going to shine in full radiance and attain cosmic consciousness overnight. Some will have to go through more difficult challenges only because of their karmic past and the choices we make in this life. It's a little bit like snake and ladders, actually. I mean, you can shoot up fast, but you can also fall down. And it's the main thing, I would say, the overriding factor is to find this, if I was to really boil it down, find this love for God. Whatever that may mean, find this love for God, find this love for being. And it may come through nature or whatever, and rise towards that. And that will pull us, that will take us forward in our journey. And then in the afterlife, we'll be radiant. We'll be radiant. We will have fulfilled our potential, maybe not entirely, but worked a long way towards it. But yeah, go, the expression, go for it. I mean, attain your highest good. Do it.
Well, I'm hoping to attain something, because otherwise that would be pretty boring. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, hopefully, you said earlier on and that your passion is, I think you said radio and chasing monsters. Well, I certainly think passion. Sorry. I mean, radio. Evidently, you enjoy it and you're very good at it. The chasing monsters, I don't know, but because it's chasing monsters. What does that really mean? I've never thought about chasing monsters. But maybe I don't know. What do you mean by chasing monsters?
Well, I like going to look for Bigfoot in the forest, ghosts in buildings, UFOs and aliens.
And so long as you feel that that is fulfilling your purpose, then you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yes.
Good.
That's my path and my mantra right now.
Excellent. We all need to find our path.
Question from Mike in our chat room. Paul, do you believe in the soul trap theory?
Well, I'm sorry, Mike, but I'm not sure what the soul trap. I don't know what the soul trap theory is.
Let's take a look here. Apparently, it's essentially an idea where it claims that once we die in the physical world, our souls are transported to a void. So I guess like a purgatory.
Oh, no, I don't believe in. Yes, lower astral realm. I think there is an atonement that needs to be done, which will be lived out on this physical plane. But unlike I think some belief systems, I don't believe that it's eternal. One's not down there. That would be a very wicked, cruel, monstrous God that trapped us for all eternity in hell. No, I don't believe that for a moment, and I perish the thought. Not at all. God is love. God is compassion. God is forgiveness. Or these are aspects and elements of God, facets of the makeup of God, for want of another term. And trap, no, not at all. There is redemption for every single one of us, no matter how bad or deviant or fallen we may have been.
Let me ask you this. What happens, or what do you think happens when we in finally get full spiritual enlightenment? What happens to us?
when we have full spiritual enlightenment, in other words, attain a nirvana or cosmic consciousness, then we're given a choice, actually. We can either remain on Earth as what are referred to as an ascended master, and these are well documented, throughout history, to help humanity to evolve, or we go on, as mentioned, to interplanetary existence in the life cycle of one of the, not any other planet, but another planet within our own solar system, to engage. It's, you can look at it all as sort of being a process of, we start at kindergarten, then we go to junior high, whatever, however you call it, and then high school, and then college, whatever, and it's all a process of graduation, and it's similar in the same way for us in this solar system. We evolve when we've attained enlightenment. We're no longer, we've graduated, to the next stage, and we then go through that next stage, and we graduate from there with growing, expanding realization and consciousness of the magnificence of God, and it just gets more and more incredible. Coming back to the why of all this, we're on this incredible journey. We're on this amazing, phenomenal journey, and it's been, and some religions haven't done their best to help us get out of it or to understand it in the correct way, and given us. There is a place for guilt, but not, eternal guilt and eternal damnation and all the rest of it.
Well, it is interesting to see, how far we got to go. Why do you think we have such troubles remembering our prior lives if we're on this spiritual journey?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Because if we, and it can come to us in flashes or flashbacks. But if we don't want to relive our past. We're here to live the present. And if we want to sort of spend the whole, you were my husband in my last life or whatever, and you did this, we're not here to sort of remember everything that we did to one another, for better or for worse, because it would be chaos. We'd be stuck. There's your trap. You're trapped in your past. So there's no obvious immediate benefit from knowing all this stuff. What if I had killed? And doubtless I have killed people in war, whatever. And do I want to be racked by guilt, or somebody's killed me? Do I want to hunt them down for revenge? It would serve no good purpose.
That's right. Paul, we have you for about another 30 seconds here on Spaced Out Radio. Thank you for being here with us. Please do us a favor. Tell everybody where they could find your books and more information.
Well, they can certainly find it on Amazon. Maya, Mayamire. And otherwise, the Aetherius Society, aetherius.org. That's AETHERIUS.org. For the teachings that were given by these cosmic beings, cosmic intelligences, we call them cosmic masters, who communicated through Dr. George King, this master of yoga, from 1955 to.
Wonderful. Thank you, Paul. Coming up next on Spaced Out Radio, we got Swamp Dweller, Robin Haynes, the Dave 101, and the Weird News of the Week.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it.
You're going to let me off the hook now, are you?
You get to go to bed.
Thank you very much.
All right, my friend.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Very enjoyable. Thanks a lot.
Take care.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye. Paul Nugent, everybody. I'll be right back as well. Thurston Howell III. How are you? Who am I? Welcome. You don't want Dave to know you're here. Okay. I guess I don't know. Nor do I have time. All right. Hi, Robin Haynes. We got about 45 seconds. Thank you to Cosmic Joe for our lone super chat tonight. Damian Wyatt, how you doing? Exciting show tonight. Do, do, do. 5 seconds. Here we go at the last hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. It's jam-packed. We're going to get right to it here momentarily. My name is Dave Scott. This is Spaced Out Radio. And we want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network, our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do we got, Clam? Cosmic. Cosmic is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. You know, it's always a good time when we get to have the chance to go to the swamp. Yeah, swamp dweller. I love them, man. I absolutely love them. And let's see what we got here for you tonight. Where is it here? Here we go.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp.
All right, we'll get to that here in just 1 second. Here we go.
When I was still young, maybe 6 or 7, my folks got the great idea of converting our garage into a family and game room. This was the 80s. The concept of the family game room was becoming popular, primarily because of the rise of arcades and the availability of having arcade games and consoles like the Atari 2600 to the consumer market. It was indeed a fantastic time to be a kid. Although my parents often used the garage to store things, my dad grew tired of being unable to watch TV because my brother and I constantly were playing video games. He had seen a conversion, a neighbor who had decided that this would be the best way to get his television back. First, he traveled to a local hardware superstore and purchased a steel shed to make up for the storage space he had been losing. Along with a 6-pack of Miller High Life, he spent a few days putting it up in our backyard. Despite falling in on himself within a year, he seemed pleased with his work. His next step was to find a company to do the conversion for a fair price. He called every company in the phone book, but they wanted more than he wanted to pay. After asking around, a friend recommended a group of guys who had remodeled his kitchen for dirt cheap. Since my dad was a first-class cheapskate, these were the guys for him. After much haggling, they were contacted, and Dad hired them for the job. My dad was in such a hurry to regain control of the TV that he couldn't wait until the spring to start the renovation. As a result, the guys could use the space heaters to be comfortable working in the Kansas winter. From the start, these guys were nothing but trouble. When they did show up at the house, which was very rarely, they did very little and often called it a day by 3 p.m. My dad had to call several times to complain. Once or twice he even had to make them redo some piece of shoddy work. If I remember right, my mother tried to get him to fire the guys and hire a new company, but regardless of all the headaches, my dad was a miser to the bone. Eventually, he would be forced to get a new set of contractors. However, this was only because a near-deadly disaster would force him to. One night, Billy, my little brother, and I would be put to bed just like any other evening. At some point, my mother would shake me awake in the middle of the night. She was yelling and had a very panicked look on her face. I slowly started to rise when I began to smell smoke. My mother was next to the door, yelling at my brother. It wasn't long before the smoke caused me to start choking and coughing. I remember putting on my robe when my mother ran back into my room carrying Billy on her shoulder. I don't think he was even awake yet, really. She pushed me out of the room and we ran down the hall toward the front door. My dad was standing in the foyer. He must have been waiting for us. By then the house had filled with thick black smoke, but I couldn't see any fire. This changed once we all made it out to the front lawn. I stood with the rest of my family watching the flames engulfing the house and illuminating the neighborhood. Fire trucks arrived a minute later, and we all got checked out by the paramedics. They fought the fire for over an hour, but the house was already done for. We would be living in a motel for the next 6 months or more. About a week after the fire, Dad got the report that stated it had been started by a faulty space heater in the garage. I can only imagine how furious he was to read this. This still didn't stop him from wanting to hire a Yahoo back to rebuild the house. My mother put her foot down at this point. However, when she threatened to take Billy and me and move in with her parents, my dad folded and hired a reputable company to do the job. I'm suspicious that he only chose them because he wasn't paying for them. The check from the insurance company did cover all the costs, luckily. He probably would have found another group of cowboy builders to do the job and keep the extra money if he could, but I don't think he thought of that. I love the man, but Jesus. The work was completed relatively quickly. My parents chose to have the new house rebuilt in almost the same design as the original. The significant difference was the construction of a large game room at the back. The family would spend most of our next 10 years there, even Dad. The garage was put back to work storing things, and the shed was left to collapse. There's still a big pile of rusty steel all these years later.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another creepy story. And if you like those or more, you can head on over to youtube.com/Swamp Dweller Reads, and you can check them out right there. Don't forget to hit subscribe. Let's head to Robin. Robin Haynes, it's always a good time to have you here on Spaced Out Radio. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to be here. Missed you guys last week.
We did. We totally missed you last week. But you're here now. And that's all. So thank you for coming on in. What's new in the cryptid world?
Well, you know what? It's been really busy the last couple of weeks. You and I had talked about briefly about the fact that this time of year they get really active. And I kind of think like maybe it'd be a good idea to go over that a little bit because I don't think people realize just how active they can be. Not that, some people don't notice the lulls in some spots, but they are out. They're getting ready for winter. They're stocking up on food. They're getting in whatever crops they can scavenge out of the fields. And the biggest thing is those babies are out now. They've got their kids out with them, not just the little babies, but they've got kids out there. And they are teaching them to hunt. They're teaching them to do all these things that they have to do to prepare, and of course the northern areas have got the heavy snow. And in Canada, you guys get a lot of heavy snow, but even in the warmer climates, Florida, whatever, they're still getting ready. So a lot of unexpected visits right now. People are noticing coming in and out of barns, stealing straw, stealing hay, grain, whatever. There's just a lot of activity. It's normal for them this time of year. They are a type of people. They're getting ready just like we go and stock up before a snowstorm. and they're not any different. I was in Imlay City in Michigan one year, and one of the park rangers there had gotten called out. They got told that there was a homeless man living in a cave. He went out to the cave only to find it wasn't a homeless person at all. There was these giant footprints in the dirt and 14 deer stacked in a pile at the back of this cave. You know, they really do. They get ready. They get ready for the bad weather. They get ready for the good weather. You know, they'll get as many crops as they can out of farmers' fields and stack it up. It is not uncommon for them to have even planted things. People don't realize how much they do plant, especially like sassafras, you know, tea-berry, medicinal herbs. They're, you know, they are not stupid by a long shot, and they will get that stuff together and they will get it gathered. But this time of year, they are teaching the younger kids to hunt. They are teaching them rites of passages, lots of different things. So just, you know, be aware when you're out in the woods that it's not just that they are out there hunting. They're got their kids out there and they're teaching their kids, and there is nothing on this planet more protective of their kids than they are. So just, you know, it's not dangerous for you to be out there by any means. Just keep a watchful eye, give them space. You know, give them the space that they need to do whatever they're going to do. I had someone that I knew that actually walked in, and he went to go camping at a cabin, and he got there later than planned. They knew he was coming. He came there quite frequently, but he got there late, and he walked in while they were teaching one of the youngsters to hunt. And he got in that cabin, and they literally rocked that cabin and kept him terrified all night long so he wouldn't leave. And they had no intention of hurting him. They just wanted him to stay put so they could finish doing what they were doing. So just be mindful of it. You don't have to be terrified or anything like that, or, you know, planning on defending yourself. Just give them a wide space. You know, if you see them out there, know that they're probably not by themselves and they're out there working on stuff.
I want to ask you an interesting question, because up here in British Columbia, the one thing that grizzly bears have learned over the years of hunting season is that instead of running away from a gunshot, they are now starting to run towards it, because they figured out that there's a free meal at the end of that gunshot.
Yeah.
Is that the same way with Sasquatch, who can potentially get a free meal out of that?
Do you know, most people think when they hear that gunshot, they're taking off. And occasionally they do, but you're absolutely right. They know, you know, hunting season's coming up. They're very well aware of the seasons. They're very well aware when we hunt. It is very common for hunters to be out, you know, hit a deer. They go to follow that blood trail to get the deer. They go to the end of the blood trail and there's no deer. And it is free food for them. The other thing too is they start hearing gunshots, and if they have these kids out there and they are walking to hunt or whatever, and they hear a gunshot, they're going to go towards that gunshot to make sure it doesn't get near the kids. You know, so there's a couple of things. And the same thing, bow and arrow season. I can't tell you how many times they would bring me these arrows from the bow and arrows. I'd get up in the morning and I have piles of them on my front porch. You know, just because they would find them in the woods and they didn't want them near the kids, they didn't want them near the families, and they would just toss them up on my porch. I'd get up in the morning and I'd have 20 of them out there. It was easy. And so they're very much aware of hunting season. They're looking for bait piles, people that, you know, like I'm born and raised in Michigan. Here in South Carolina, I don't see a lot of bait piles. Michigan, you know, they always have got bait piles out. They will watch those bait piles because they know the deer come in. And I was never a hunter. My kids were. My ex-husband was. And it was very common for them to go out to the bait pile, and not only would all the bait be gone, but they would find a pile of white belly hair off the deer, where, you know, they dropped it right there, and then they would try to gut it right out, and you'd find all this hair from the deer on the ground. So they would wait for those deer to come into the bait piles and get them that way. But they will follow the hunters, absolutely. It's an easy way to get food for the table. They will take that deer in a heartbeat. I have friends that have been out hunting before, and they followed the blood trail to where the deer was at, no deer, and they heard a growl, and they looked up, and it was over the shoulder of a Sasquatch. You know,
Yeah. And the reason why I say that is last week we actually had Daryl Denton on the show. I don't know if you know Daryl or not.
I am very, very good close friends with Daryl. He is amazing. I love him.
And he told us a story about how one of the reasons why he got interested in Sasquatch was because he was in a deer stand up on a tree one day.
Mhm.
And, here he was waiting for the deer to come on in, and let be told that a Sasquatch came in, grabbed a deer, and was staring at him and growling at him the whole time.
Yeah. In fact, you'll meet Daryl because he will be speaking at the Nebraska Bigfoot Conference next year.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm real excited. We're going to have a great group. But yeah, that's absolutely possible. And they also will go, like if the hunters are up in the tree stand, and they'll shake that tree stand. You're up there and you're looking for deer for yourself, and they're looking at that you're taking food off their table. They don't generally hurt the hunters. It's more of a scare tactic or to get whatever they're going to get. But absolutely, hunting season, we see a lot of clashes between the hunters and the Sasquatch. We don't, from what I've seen, we don't see a lot of people that have gotten hurt. Frightened, absolutely. Everybody wants the same thing, but now aren't a lot of people that are actually getting hurt, but they are getting a lot of visuals at that point in time.
So what is that scare tactic for then?
Well, when you're going in there and you're hunting deer, you're not aware that you're in Sasquatch territory. You're not aware that you're taking food off of their dinner plate. They want the easier meal. I mean, let's face it, if you can drive up to McDonald's and go through the drive-through and get a meal, or go home and cook for an hour and a half, which one are you going to want to do? You're going to want the easier thing. And this time of year, they are getting ready for winter. They're ready for that climate change, whether it's in the southern states or the northern states, and whatever's going to be easiest. Now, they will stockpile food through the entire year, just like going to a grocery store, but especially this time of year. And if they can get extra meat for their family by following a hunter, that takes all the pressure off of them. It's less work for them. It's easier for them to do. And then they see these hunters that are out in the tree stands. It's very seldom do they find something taller than they are. And now there's something above them, which can also make them feel it's a threat. So they're going to scream, they're going to holler, they make some noise. I don't get a lot of feedback from people that have actually gotten hurt. I know some people that have actually been terrified, but there's been no physical harm come to them. It's been all visual, which can be scary enough. I'm not diminishing that at all. But they don't seem to be actually hurting people. I mean, I'm sure at some point, there might be, but we don't hear a lot about that. But we do see that there's a lot more encounters this time of year, and it generally starts in September all the way through hunting season.
Well, of course it does. And that's why, it's important for researchers such as myself to always go check out on their Sasquatch spot to make sure
Absolutely.
nothing's burned or anything that has been, divided up in the area.
Yeah. And, and I tell a lot of my clients that I work with the same thing. This time of year, going through hunting season, and this time of year, because the babies are coming out, the adolescents are out, they're teaching them to hunt, they're teaching them to fish, they're teaching them to do all these things, plus they're gathering food. A lot of the hunters in the clan are out getting that extra food. It's a great time of year for everybody to kind of bump into each other, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it. So just be mindful of it. It doesn't seem to be, like I said before, a higher risk where people are getting hurt. People are getting frightened. They're going out there to hunt for their own families. They're not out there thinking that they're going to run into a Sasquatch, but it does happen occasionally. If you are following that blood trail and it disappears and you feel that they have it, just let them have it. A deer isn't worth it. It really isn't. And generally, if you just back away quietly, they will leave you alone. They really don't want any trouble. They just want the food for their families.
What's their diet?
They will eat anything. They are omnivores. They will eat absolutely everything from plants to meat to fish any vegetation, berries, fruits. You know, they're opportunistic. They'll eat what they have available, what they can find. You know, their body's pretty much going to tell them what they need. But beyond that, it's whatever food that they can find. You know, it's very common for people that have farms to find that straw's missing because they'll use it to bed in, hay's missing, you know, feed, corn, oats, whatever. They will eat all of it and they will use all of it. So it's not uncommon, excuse me, to find things missing out of your barn. You know, people that have chickens, you know, it's not uncommon. Of course, this goes on year round. Your eggs are missing. They used to steal my chicken eggs when I had chickens, but I just said, I don't mind sharing, but you can't have all of them. And after that, I always had some there that were there for my kids. A lot of your chicken ranches, you know, some of your states have the large chicken ranches. They love the chicken ranches. There's thousands of birds in there. Nobody's going to notice if they go in and take out 10. You know, and some of the chicken houses, even in Michigan, any of the birds that would die or whatever, they would have gut piles. They would take them off their property and dump them out in the back in the woods. And the Sasquatch would go there rather than raid the chicken houses. But they do get in them. You know, so those are always things you got to be aware of.
As temperatures start to drop and, you know, we start heading into the fall season here, what are some of the safety measures that people can do when they're potentially in an area for Sasquatch?
Well, again, if it's hunting season, be aware. If you're noticing stick structures, okay, if you're noticing wildlife is acting different, or if it's actually too quiet where you're not hearing any noise at all, that kind of is your indicator. Be extremely aware of your surroundings. Know your surroundings. Most hunters, and husbands did, they'd been out to the area they were going to hunt in before. So when you first go out there, take a look at it. Listen for the sounds. Look at what's around you. So when you go in there, if you're noticing subtle changes or if you feel like you're being watched, you know, take that as a clue that maybe this isn't the spot for you. You don't want to be competitive with something else that's bigger than you to hunt. You know, and for the people that are out there, well, I have a gun, I'm safe. It doesn't make you safe. It really, in a lot of circumstances, it's been proven throughout time that a gun is not going to help you. You know, if you get a lucky shot, maybe, but it's not always going to help you. And if there's one, there is generally more around that you're not seeing. So that isn't always the answer. There's no reason we cannot be copacetic and be in the same space with these guys. We absolutely can. They have to respect us. We have to respect them. You know, let them move around you. But if you know you're in an area where they're there, tread lightly or go to a different area. It's really quite simple.
I love it. I love it. We got about 1 minute to go here before we have to say goodnight to you. What do you want the people to know over the next week before they hear from you again?
Just be aware of what's going on out in the woods, you guys. This time of year, everybody is out together. We're out there, they're out there, the kids are out there. Just be aware of your surroundings. You don't have to be fearful. Be respectful, be smart. If you notice things have changed, then that's not where you need to be.
I love it. Robin, it's always a pleasure to have you here because you make it so much fun.
I love you guys.
I know. We love you too. And anytime we get to talk some Sasquatch with you, it's always a good time. Some of us don't know how you get the information, but it just sounds way too good.
Well, I get it from them. I get it from them. And just, they've been around me my whole life. So it's just one of those things you learn about stuff over time. You've got certain ones that will verbally talk to you as well as mind speaking. You kind of learn as you go. I had one yesterday tell me the kids were out.
Beautiful. Dave 101 next. I can tell you right now, I don't care.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
Beautiful night, Robin. Thank you.
Okay. You take care, sweetheart. Love you. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you, dear.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Robin Haynes, everybody. Robin Haynes. Robin Haynes. Robin Haynes. I do get pedicures. I do search for Bigfoot, and I rock out to Bumblefoot. But I don't have a lucky rabbit's foot. I don't eat chicken foot. Just the way it goes. No, I'm not ironing my shirt. I don't iron. I'm the type of guy that every time I did iron in the past, I made it worse. do 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 do. Clean that up. Don't need that. Excuse me. Thought I was going to dodge this case of the sniffles, but apparently I'm not. We have 2 minutes. I know Sweet Robbie G is all excited because the Vegas Golden Knights have opened up training camp. One sec here. I'm just going to mute myself for. There we go. $35 seconds. Homeless to Millionaire, welcome to SOR Chat. Thank you to Joe times 2 and Amy for the super chats. Greatly appreciate the love and support. Here we go, everybody. Here comes the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. The Dave 101 right around the corner. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for tuning us in. I want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, we got our archives for free on YouTube and every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We got a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. All right, it's that time of the night where I love to yell at people to get off my lawn. It's the Dave 101.
Open up the door, it's Dave! Who? Dave, D-A-V-E! What is this?
Dave, not here.
It's the Dave 101.
I can see you're really upset about this. I honestly think you ought to sit down calmly, take a stress pill, and think things over.
Leave the killer out! Yeah! Leave the killer!
It's a mess.
Remember that old Phil Collins song, I Don't Care Anymore? The band Hell Yeah did a great version of that. That's the way I'm feeling about the UFO world right now, as it has been confirmed that on November 13th, there is going to be new hearings in Washington, D.C. Matt Laszlo reporting that Nancy Mace, Republican from South Carolina, is going to lead the chair to the second public UAP hearing on the 13th in the U.S. House of Representatives. She says, I want whistleblowers to feel like they could come forward. I want people protected. Every American deserves the protection and the right to know how their tax dollars are being spent and what's being spent on. And if it's no big deal, why hide it? Sure, that's a great quote. It's a tough quote. Senator Gillibrand did that a year ago, acting all tough, that we're going to get to the bottom of these UAPs. They never did. No, they never did. Look, the attitude is correct in front of the public, in front of the microphone, in front of the cameras, that they want this solved. They want this mystery taken care of. Yet, every time they seem to go in front of Congress or go in front of the Senate, they do these hearings. What do we get? Zip, zilch, nothing, nada. Now, pardon my arrogance on the subject, because I do want things to go well. But I want people to know and to understand that we're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. There is a difference between disclosure and confirmation. And yes, it's great that more senators are hopping on the bandwagon. But will they be able, under their own security and oaths, to tell the public truly what's going on? See, they always seem to message the public that this is going to be public to them, that they want this false transparency that never seems to happen. And it never does. So pardon me for being a little bit too dismissive of these latest talks. If they want to start taking this seriously and getting evidence and bring it out to the public, because the public has a right to know, why does everything juicy have to go behind a skiff? Well, the logical answer is that everybody gives, well, due to national security clearance, due to NDAs, due to top secret clearance, that you can't talk to the public that because they're not read in. We know. Which makes it impossible for this topic to actually become an open book. It also leads things to us in not knowing what's going on, and true that we have to accept that we have no choice. It's getting ridiculous. We have people still talking about the crashes and shoot downs of Chinese weather balloons and drones claiming they're UFOs. We still have people claiming that UFOs took out MH370. Now there's a big argument whether or not Lou Elizondo did or did not run the ATIP program, and many people now are starting to come out against that. More people than I thought. I don't know what the hell the truth is anymore. To be blunt, I'm a guy who is supposed to know. It's my job. But I can honestly, categorically tell you, I don't. I don't even know what is happening. Why? Because it's confusing, and it just seems like the minute you get somebody telling the truth these days about UFOs, that the next day they're being proven wrong. I'm becoming sullen. You know, I feel like that guy who stands on his grass in the middle of a springtime afternoon yelling at the one dark cloud that sits above his house and is raining on his freshly cut grass. That's who I feel like right now. It's getting ever confusing, which is why I don't even care if we interview Lou Elizondo on this show. He's done a media tour. I've watched him do over 80 interviews. I haven't seen everyone, but I've been counting. I've seen him do shows bigger than ours. See shows do smaller than ours. And we can't get a call back or an email back from his publishing company who wanted us to interview him in week number 1 that the book was out. Is it even really worth it? These interviews that he does, everybody asks the same thing. If they're new to the subject, are there really aliens here? Like the mockery that the Late Show did with him the other night. Are there aliens? Are there aliens? Yeah, they may have the audience, but that's not really getting the message out, is it? It's just getting frustrating. This is why I love people's stories. This is why, I have no problem with people telling their anecdotal stories on this show. At least we are getting some sort of truth to the experiences people are having. Because look, people, if you think that you're going to get an actual answer that UFOs are real, you already got it from the U.S. government. Many people have said it. Donald Trump has said it. That's disclosure. If that's all you need, be like Chief Wiggum. Nothing to see here. Move along, people. If you want more, you have to listen to the people who are experiencing it, because they're not going to tell you what happened at Roswell. They're not going to tell you where the hidden UFOs are that they are reverse engineering. And they sure as hell are not going to tell us where the aliens are. People like you, like me, who are real experiencers, who have had real time encounters with the phenomena, know what the truth is. We know it's real. We know it's uncontrollable. And we don't know what they want from us. We just don't. So we must keep going and use disclosure as this, people. Use it for yourself, because there isn't going to be a president standing at a podium anytime soon saying, my fellow Americans, we have had contact with an alien species from outside this world. And if they do that, now you got to prepare for any sort of false flag type information on potential fake alien invasions and all that. But that's a topic for a different night. Right now, more hearings? Sure, we're going to cover it. We have to. That's our job as a media outlet and as a radio show. And yes, we will talk about it. But be prepared to be disappointed. It's like you keep on asking your father growing up as a kid for a pony or a new bike. And what you got was a pack of Hot Wheels or a new Barbie doll. So the next year you do the same, and that's the results that are the same the following year. Not trying to be a downer, once again. Not trying to be that guy. But there's a lot of mistruth and truth mixed into one right now, and it's hard to navigate the UFO waters when you don't know where you're steering. I want people to keep an open mind. I want people who are experienced to share their encounters. Don't worry about the where's your proof questions. Those people are nauseating at best. Your proof is in your voice and the way you tell your story. Just be honest about it. Those are the true disclosure activists. Those who have had the experience in dealing with things, whether it's through sleep paralysis, whether it's through dreams, whether it's through astral travel, whether you're driving your car along the freeway at night and it gets inundated and surrounded by white light and you have 4 hours of missing time that you can't explain. That's disclosure. Without us, they have no leads. Without our videos or our recordings of our sightings, they have no place to go. Because you notice during the disclosure panels here and everybody, they're not mentioning how they get their information from people like you. No, it's all about fighter pilots. It's all about nuclear facilities. It's all about military bases, airports. It never has anything to do with you or me. It has everything to do with them setting a narrative. Because if they truly cared about you or me, we would be acknowledged as part of the disclosure movement. And instead, they treat us like that annoying zit that's on the middle of your forehead that needs to be popped before prom so it doesn't scar or look bad in the photos. I don't want any more panels. I don't want any more hearings. I just want everybody to shut up and let us take ufology back instead of them trying to erase what we've worked hard for. What this show has worked hard for is for you, the people. We want your stories. We want your encounters. And we want you to be brave enough to be able to share them with other people, whether it's on air or whether it is in the chat room or in a private message. In the end, we're not going to be better off with more hearings because the only thing that comes out of them is no new answers. And that's your Dave 101. Let's get to the news.
As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the latest bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News.
Loud noises! I am good at things, fighting and reading the news.
It's time once again for Spaced Out Radio's Weird News of the Week.
All right. You know what? You ever notice on social media, we're starting to see over the last number of months, all of these wannabe influencers take things too far? Well, parents have been left in disbelief. And if I was the parents of this kid, I'd cut him out of the will after tanning his hide for a few hours. Parents left in disbelief because they thought their son had been dead for 6 months, and he called them on a radio show. How do you do this to your parents? Okay, as far as wild sibling rivalries go, this one from New Zealand is right out of a soap opera. So, let's see here. Callum's fake death tale isn't a subplot from a dark TV show. It's actually a rather cruel prank his sister pulled on their parents for reasons unknown. In a clip from 2023 that has since been going and doing the rounds on TikTok, a listener called Callum rings a local news station, radio station, tell his bizarre story. Hosts Carl Fletcher, Vaughn Smith, and Haley Spruill were left in shock when they heard what Callum's sister came up with to get back at her family. My sisters were in a bit of a tiff with my parents at the time. They really weren't getting along, Callum explained. At the time, Callum was living in Wellington, around 270 miles away from his parents' home in Christchurch. He continued, my older sister actually called my parents up and told them that I had died. The woman's prank also included some pretty grim details, telling her parents that her brother had been murdered and that his burial had already taken place. The poor parents were also told that their son's ex-girlfriend's parents didn't want them at the funeral. Oh my gosh. No offense, Vaughn says on the radio, your sister sounds like a top-level red flag crazy B word. One can only imagine how the parents felt when he finally called them up 6 months after they were told he died. Asked why he hadn't been in contact with his parents for that long, he simply said, I was just busy with life and work. And then I was like, wait, I haven't heard from my parents in a while. I wonder what's going on. And I gave him a call up, and my mom and dad were like, you're alive? Mom was absolutely in tears. My dad was just kind of gobsmacked. He was like, what is going on? The host quizzed Callum as to why his parents took his sister's spiel at face value. He responded they were kind of like running around calling our other family to see if they'd heard anything about what I was told. They really didn't know anything or have anything to go off of, so my parents just kind of presumed, yeah, he died. It's the wildest phone call the radio station ever had. Now, it just shows you how poor communication is in that family. I don't think they get along very well. I really don't. I can't imagine them getting together for Christmas dinner. So apparently this child in Scotland claims to suffer from species dysphoria, which is when an individual is uncomfortable in their body and believes it belongs to a different species. Yeah. Teachers are now reportedly trying to help guide a student following a Scottish government guidance called Getting It Right for Every Child, and using a well-being wheel to support kids as they face challenges or encounter barriers to learning. The well-being wheel is a diagram used in guidance that stresses the importance of helping children to overcome inequalities and ensure that their voices are heard in decisions that affect their life, with support where appropriate. Well, apparently this student thinks they are a wolf, a furry, and was offered personal support and more specific support from a well-being worker, according to the publication. But the council acknowledged there's very little specific guidance on species dysphoria. Because according to clinical neuropsychologist Dr. Tammy McKay, it's not a thing. There is no such in science as species dysphoria, he told the Daily Mail. It is not surprising that we are seeing in this age in where many people want to identify as something other than what they are. Now we have a council which appears to accept at face value that a child wants to identify as a wolf rather than being told to snap out of it and get to grips with themselves, which would be the common sense approach. Species dysphoria, people. It's out there. I have no problem with anybody who wants to be anything that they want. I do get concerned when it comes to kids, though. I really do. So, an Indiana woman arrested for disorderly conduct was unarrested after a jail refused to take her in. Why? She was too drunk. Police in Seymour were called for a woman who was not doing well on June 22nd. The police report and officers found the woman who had difficulty sitting up and was slurring her words with a bottle of whiskey hanging out of her purse. Well, that's a sheer sign of something going on right there, isn't it? Paramedics were called to check her out and determined she was only heavily inebriated. After the woman refused to go to a hospital, cops arrested her for disorderly conduct and drove her to the Jackson County Jail. Jail staff gave her a breathalyzer where she blew 0.255 blood alcohol level. Staff refused to put her in a cell. We wouldn't take care of them. That is too high. Way too drunk. We got to wait for their alcohol level to come way down, the Jackson County Jail commander told Seymour Council at a June meeting. My staff refuses. The police officer takes this person. He has got to sit in the parking lot with her. The jail commander said the officer didn't wait very long to release the woman. Well, then he calls the jail. About 5 minutes later, change of plans. They have unarrested her. I'm going to leave her in the parking lot of the jail, the commander said. So in other words, if you're going to get in trouble because of alcohol, drink too much, and that way they just let you go, and you get to sleep in your own bed. Doesn't sound like a good plan either way. Here we go. As we say hello, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, Space Travelers Club, and on X, hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us. Because together, my friends,
make a mistake. We're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Blue Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow. Who's on the show tomorrow? Keith Thompson, the UFO Paradox. Cool. I'm going to unfortunately cut this short because my throat is sore and I want to make sure that we have a voice for tomorrow. So I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you, Cosmic Joe ×2 and Amy, for the super chats. I had a really good night. I hope you guys do too. And we will talk to you tomorrow with another good one. See you, everybody.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.